Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at CokeURL.com/soccer rules.
Welcome back to Victory Drive, everybody. Another weekend, and I appreciate you all for coming in and listening to this fine broadcast we have going on this week. And actually this week we have in Mo Reyes. We just have a good, solid gun conversation, general convo about, guns, shooting. He does a lot of reloading, so we talk about that for a bit, and just all sorts of other good, fun stuff. But I'm going to keep this intro kind of short for all you guys. I don't want to go too long in here. But I do need to mention Grizzly Coolers, title sponsor. Thank you again for coming on, Grizzly. You guys are the greatest. Awesome partners. Love those guys. Got to hang out with them a little bit at some of the trade shows, and they're just fucking grade A dudes. And so if you guys are in the market for another cooler, especially some hard side coolers, we have a good code for you. It's code WCB. I think you get 15% off. And also, we still have going on MTN OPS giveaway. All right. It is, what day is it today? August 22nd. Well, August 23rd by the time of you guys listening to this, because I'm recording this a day prior. So August 23rd, the giveaway is still going on. So when you guys go to MTN OPS and you spend some money there, I think your first up to $100, you get one entry. So you go to MTN OPS. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Go to MTN OPS. Decide what you want from MTN OPS. Go through, scan their stuff, whether it's some pre-workout, maybe some Ignite just to help get you through the day. Maybe you need some protein powder because you're trying to hit those macronutrients a little bit harder, and you're just looking down. You're like, man, I'm kind of fucking skinny. I need some more protein in my diet. So you get some Magnum protein powder in ya, or you look at their fucking sweet gear and you decide that you want, like, they have badass merino base layers and a little merino hoodie. Hey, come on, dude. Get yourself some of that gear. Get yourself some of them sups. Get healthy. Get looking good for the ladies and for the mountains. So whenever you go there and you spend some money, make sure you use code VICTORY at checkout. Code VICTORY at checkout or WCB, and you get yourself 20% off, and you get entered for the big giveaway. That big giveaway actually includes a brand new Elite Omnia. Holy shit, that's badass. Cool bow. Custom Grizzly Coolers. You have a WCB Grizzly Cooler they're giving away, and you have a Victory Drive 40-quart cooler as well that you could win. There's also going to be some other gear from Trophy Line and some of the other WCB partners, and we'll be picking multiple winners. There's not going to just be one winner winning all this cool shit. We're going to spread the love, give the love out to as many people as we can. So picking multiple winners for one of these cool ass prizes. And also, a little fun fact here. If you spend over $100, then you get 2 entries. And every $100 after that is an additional 2 entries. So you go in there and you spend, $400. That's like fucking 8 entries right there. God dang, that's awesome. And so get into MTN OPS, get yourself some cool gear, get entered to win the giveaway, and we would really appreciate it, guys. And that's gonna do it for this week's introduction to Victory Drive. So everyone, welcome Mo Reyes, and thank you all for listening in. I really do appreciate everything you do. And action. So, have you done a lot of podcasts before?
I've done one with Jake Hoffer on the Land podcast. He does the Exodus podcast too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just did one like 2-3 weeks ago to talk about just land, buying land for recreational land for hunting.
Oh, nice. You just bought a farm or sold a farm and bought a new one not too long ago?
Yeah, so I'm on the third one now, but yeah, I sold the one that Austin used to help me with, and just closed on the new one in February.
Nice. That's exciting.
Yeah, so got some good deer on the new piece.
Yeah. So where are you at, like state wise? You don't tell me exactly where you're at, but
I'm in Illinois, and I live about an hour west from Chicago. I actually work downtown Chicago. I do a little marketing and.
Cool. How's that going?
Awesome. Yeah. So far, so good. Good year so far.
Nice. That's awesome. That's good, man. Well, so I guess we can get started if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever you want to touch on, I'll let you lead the conversation and just guide me.
Fuck yeah. All right. I already hit record a little while ago. I like to just kind of start recording in the beginning, just kind of get everything running,
Sure.
rocking and rolling. So I guess we can just start with, who you are, kind of your background a little bit and what you do and all that good stuff, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, sounds good. So, Mo Reyes, I've been, playing around with firearms and all things hunting for the past 10 years, which isn't a whole lot compared to a lot of guys who started when they were a lot younger. But for me, it's been pretty much all about, how can I catch up to all, not other guys who are out there, but just like, lost time, and how do you get really good at something when you started in your late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been, and I've taken a similar approach to hunting, just like surrounding myself with people who have been really successful, people who have done it for a very long time. I think in the firearms world, it's a lot easier to find people who are obviously well trained in different areas. So Illinois is surprisingly it's a good place to find instruction, even though we have pretty highly regulated firearms ownership in the state. But beyond that, like I mentioned to you the site formerly the Blackwater training facility. It's actually on the northwest corner of the state.
Okay.
And I've gotten a chance to get out there, get some professional instruction with, and I can get into the details about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But professional instruction there. A few other clubs in the area. I belong to the Aurora Sportsman Club, which is probably the largest shooting range in the northern Illinois area. They have it's all outdoors, multiple bays, no restrictions in terms of how fast you want to shoot. I mean, I've seen guys that are shooting, 50 cals. I've even seen some guys shoot cannons out there. So it's
really?
Yeah, it's pretty
awesome.
Pretty wild, the kind of stuff that you see out there. So, happy to dive into any of the topics. Because the very first thing back in, when was this? When Obama introduced the assault weapons ban, that was the trigger. That was the trigger for me to, no pun intended, to get into firearms because, my wife and I were chatting about it. I'm like, you know what? Like, I've always had grew up playing video games, lots of, Modern Warfare and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I was like, this is the time to do it before they take them away. Like, you got to get them now. So her and I went out and got into what do you call that, Void card here in Illinois. Got a P226, and then started getting some instruction. So both of us started shooting at the same time.
That's awesome, dude. So you said, let's back up a little bit. So you said you just got into hunting like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you kind of get interested into just like, I guess, hunting in the outdoors initially, I guess?
Well, it started with the firearms. So
did it start with firearms? Okay.
it started with the firearms first. So, like living in the city, outside in the suburbs, there's really not a whole lot of the hunting piece here. And I certainly did not grow up hunting. My dad did not hunt. My cousin did, but it was like I never went with them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so with this whole thing with the firearms, I got into firearms first, and then started buying 1911s, AR-15s, and then the hunting piece came probably 2 years into it, maybe a year into it, where I was like, yeah, I wasn't a member of the club at the time, so I was fairly limited to just indoor ranges that are very loud. They limit how fast you can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
There are maybe like 20 yards of how far you can shoot. So I'm like, I was starting to get kind of bored of how much I could do with what was around me. So I'm like, the next best thing was to get into hunting. And then I think within the first year or so, I went and got my hunter's ed here in Illinois, and helped on got a Mossberg shotgun, got out on the field for late season here in public land. But that's kind of what drove me to hunting, was just like, how can I get the most out of the experience of having a firearm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the natural transition into it. I feel like for a lot of people, but when it comes to, I guess, like you were mentioning earlier, it's kind of easier to find good instruction on how to become a better shooter and stuff, rather than when it comes to hunting necessarily. I wonder if that's kind of the weird thing where it seems like there's always people out there trying to help people get into shooting, because it seems like our Second Amendment rights are always being attacked.
Right.
Constantly. It's a constant fucking battle, and it seems like that. Obviously, in the 2A community, it seems like a lot of people understand, like, hey, the more people we have that are interested in guns, or at least at minimum understand what guns how they operate and why they're so important to certain people, is a pretty big factor in keeping our rights as gun owners. And that's one thing the hunting world is kind of lacking in, I feel like, where a lot of people are still very super secretive about certain things, like, don't ask me where I hunt kind of thing. And I totally understand that. Like, don't, especially when it comes to public land and stuff, you find a little honey hole, you're like, I don't want to tell anybody about this. So I get that to a certain extent. But it seems like in the hunting world, there is a sect of people that are trying to keep it, I guess, small, right?
Yeah, I'm hearing more and more about that. Like, different personalities in the hunting industry have started to chime in and said, that now, especially around people who focus on public land, are talking more and more about how public is now getting pummeled with a lot of people, and not necessarily being that supportive of it.
Right. And I get that. I totally understand, especially when it comes to out west, when there's, millions upon millions of acres of public land out there. And people that grew up out there as a young kid, like, let's say 10, 15 years ago, they're very used to having their own little range,
Right.
Like, if I go out here, nobody ever goes back there, and that's just kind of my spot. And then with the new technology of Onyx and all these other different hunting, I guess, influencers or social media and stuff blew up, and Onyx and all this stuff, right? So people are starting to get out there and stretch their legs out a little bit more and get into these spots that were historically limited to just a few people, probably. So it wasn't very crowded, and now it's starting to get more crowded. But I also think that's to an extent because we are losing, public lands in a couple different battles. And that's one thing, one fault of like the certain Republicans, that they're kind of adamant about selling off some public land in order to, whether it's to oil companies or logging companies or something like that. But it does seem like they're trying to, they are selling off some public land, and it's not really great that's definitely not good for hunting, but it is getting crowded, and I don't necessarily know how to fix that besides getting more people into it and getting more people more frustrated at the fact that we don't have as many places to hunt anymore. So then maybe we'll fight for more. right? Like that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I agree. I've heard more about this pushback out west than I have heard over here in the Midwest.
In the Midwest, we're just used to
hear...
not having land. We're just used to not having a shit ton of public land. Yeah. It's all the Westies that have millions upon millions of acres of public land. They're like, fuck, I saw someone today when I was out hunting. That sucks. We're just used to seeing people because we don't have much.
I think that you're right. I think that's what.
But I'm sorry. I think I cut you off.
No, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. That's just my little spiel on that. But so you got into guns first, and then led into hunting, and then you've been kind of on this road for the past 10 years or so. So
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then for a full-time job, you do
marketing and product development in the alcohol space.
Okay. And have you been doing that for, how long have you been doing that for? Same time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess did those things correlate at all, or is it just kind of by chance?
No, but by chance. And yeah, they're completely unrelated. I think the one thing you got me thinking about in terms of exposing people to firearms, and I've taken a couple of people from work that had zero knowledge or exposure to firearms, brought them out to the club and did like a proper introduction, your basic rules of how to handle a firearm, and taking somebody who had zero, in two instances, both of them zero experience with handling them, to just feeling completely comfortable and starting to hit bullseyes with proper technique at short distance, but starting somebody from scratch and overcoming those fears right out of the gate with proper instruction, and I think that's like a little bit of what most gun owners are, and dispelling some of those myths or the way that sometimes gun owners are portrayed, like their personality and that sort of thing. I'm like, no, like this is, if it's somebody and somebody you work with, it's like not a big deal.
Right. No, I 100% agree. Where the more people you get exposed to it, the less scary it becomes. And I truly believe that the big problem when it comes to like citizens supporting certain gun control measures, I think a lot of it comes from the fact that a lot of people that live in cities just don't understand that in the vast majority of America, especially in rural areas, guns are a tool, and they're used for a multitude of different reasons, rather than just what certain people in the city see as in like mugging and robbery and crimes. I just feel like they see it a lot, and then for one, in the news, and maybe even in person when they're walking around in certain parts of the city, where the only time they see a gun is when it's being used in a crime, or I guess by a cop, which certain people kind of look at as also just as dangerous as certain criminals. Depending on who you ask anymore, it seems like. But I really just think that city mentality, or that city view on guns, is really what's a hindrance in the gun community, I guess, is kind of my opinion on that. Like, people in rural areas look at guns completely differently than what some city people look at them,
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think it's interesting for me because I don't live in downtown of the city. I live in the suburbs, and even out here, it's a mixed bag, because there's, I would say it's kind of like a split of, when I go to any of the clubs or any of the gun ranges around here, like they're full. So clearly there's people who are interested in shooting, learning how to shoot or own firearms themselves. But at the same time, you hear the same narrative that we're used to seeing on the news in the area. So it's kind of like I live in a kind of like an odd space when it comes to the attitude, but
for sure.
Having places like the Sportsman Club that I mentioned, I mean, that becomes really kind of like a haven for people who are like-minded, people who are interested, it's a great place for, meeting people with similar interests, and people that are passionate about, the different areas of shooting, whether it's, hunting, or whether it's shotgun sports or long range shooting, PRS, F-class, all that kind of stuff. Even some of the cowboy action stuff that they're doing is pretty cool. But yeah, it's always caught my attention that it's the people in Illinois. There's a good chunk of people in Illinois that don't necessarily live in a rural area that are into firearms.
Okay, so I guess with your upbringing, since you, I guess, fairly recently, within the past, 10 years, you said getting into guns and whatnot. Have you always, I guess, has your outlook on guns always been positive, or was it at one point like kind of negative, or?
No, it's always been positive, and I always wonder this about. I don't know if it's just growing up with the video games. It's just like there is some sort of like familiarity with firearms. Like it's I don't know, there's something, I don't know if it's annoying to certain people or not, but like, showing up to the gun shop and already knowing or thinking that what you're talking about when you're talking about, a Glock model or a Sigma or whatever, and being able to understand the differences in caliber and how much, or just something as basic as using the appropriate or the right terminology, right? Calling it a magazine versus calling it a clip and like that sort of thing. Like it was never really it never was a negative thing. It was always something that, it was cool. I want to learn more. And I just didn't know where to start, I guess. But once, like I said, it's like once I don't remember like the very first time that I mentioned that buying that Mark 25, like that 226, like why did I buy that? Well, if it's good enough for, the SEAL, the Navy SEALs in the video game, it's probably pretty good for me who has no idea, how to hold it properly. But yeah, I remember the first time my wife and I were on the booth shooting that thing. It was like, it's intimidating. I can see how, and even though like I felt like I had shot it millions of times on the video game, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. That's so funny that you say that, because especially after you get into guns. Because one thing that I always noticed, I've been into guns since I was a child. My dad always had guns. He put a gun in my hands at pretty young. It was just a 22. Just going out and target shooting cans and shit in the backyard and whatnot. And then hunting. I started hunting deer hunting when I was 12, but I took a pretty long break when I was in the Army. But it was one of those things I've always kind of been around guns ever since I was a kid, so I've always had, I guess, that familiarity with them. But one thing that is funny about like the video game correlation is that have you ever noticed like on video games, whenever you add a suppressor, it always reduces the range and damage. Like that's one thing that carried with me for a little bit. Like, cause that's one thing I didn't know, because we never used suppressors growing up. I'm like, man, why would anyone want a fucking suppressor? It reduces your damage and your fucking range. Like that's dumb, Right. That's like the complete opposite of real life, but
yeah. Or the recoil, like, oh yeah, like I just, as I'm shooting, I just like drag it down, and that's all it takes to counter it.
Oh yeah.
And, but there's no concussion. It's just like the screen just shakes a little bit, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. You don't really feel it; just kind of shakes around a little bit.
Right.
No, that's funny, because I played a lot of video games when I was a kid, and then also, honestly, into my adult years, just being bored and playing a lot of video games with my buddies and shit. But no, that's good. That's pretty funny. So you've always had a positive. Like, did your family growing up, were they? I guess
no. And you know what? Like, now I think about it, like I remember as I don't know, like must have been like 12 years old or something like that. I remember having one of those Daisy, like with the little CO2 cartridge, and it must have been like
the handgun ones,
57. I think it was like a Colt Python, but it was like a gas,
dude,
like a CO2.
I had the exact same one.
It was heavy too, and looked like legit. It looked like the real deal. And So I guess if my parents got me that at that age, I'm guessing that they didn't have any issues with it. But yeah.
That's hilarious. I had the exact same gun, dude. Like everything you just explained. That was our if there's a raccoon like in the garage situation, or if there's a critter in the garage that we had to dispatch that we couldn't like grab alive, that's what we used. I think it was a beast. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was massive and heavy too.
Yeah, it has target shooting with it, honestly, just because it did make you feel like you were shooting a real gun. You know, exactly. Obviously, if I had a Colt Python of that size, and I wouldn't be shooting at the age of 12, 13, whatever, like that. Yeah. But no, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a 6-inch barrel on that thing too. It was.
Oh yeah. Big. I would flip that fucker around all over the yard too. Pretend like there's like bad guys going out there and pretend to be Dirty Harry and stuff. You know, that was a different gun as well, but still, it's like, man, I felt so fucking cool with that thing. It was awesome. It was the first handgun that we had as a family. Otherwise, it's just 22s and shotguns.
Yeah.
But no, that's funny. So then you got older and you got more into guns, I guess. So you said you got into guns because of the assault weapons? Like,
right. Yeah. To starting, it was all on the news that was happening. So, and obviously it was the AR-15 was going to get banned. So
that was during the later years of Obama, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember the year. What was it?
Probably like
2008.
Oh, well, I would have been.
But yeah,
Bush yet. I think, because Obama wasn't Obama. I don't know. Maybe it was 2008. Might have been. Actually, he might have been. He might have came in 2008. Honestly, because I deployed in 2010. Mm-hmm. Obama was president then. So yeah. Okay. So right around that era.
Right around that era. Yeah. So it was like very quickly like what's on the shopping list. So it went for obviously a Colt. SOCOM, just standard AR with a heavy barrel, and that and the SIG, like the 226 that I mentioned. And it started there, and then put an EOTech on it, right off the bat, and start shooting that. But I think from all the video games, I had a pretty long shopping list of all the guns I wanted to get. So start with the Colt and the 226, but then there was just something about 1911s that really, really appealed to me, and knowing that Springfield Armory is right here in Illinois, it's not too far from here, and I was always a big fan of just like custom, and like I could talk about Cerakoting too, but like just custom, like super like hand fitted, like super nice guns. So. I went into the 1911 forum. Kind of like the 226 was kind of like the that's what we shoot. But like if I wanted to just geek out on guns and history and like all the nuts and bolts about the builds and understanding like who has the better custom shop, like Colt versus Springfield, and then you start finding out about Les Baer, and you start finding out about Rob Shawland, who left Springfield to then open up his own shop, and you start going down the rabbit hole and learning about all these different people, and so I got my hands on we call this the Springfield Professional, which at the time was the gun that was issued to the FBI agents, and these guns were coming out of the custom shop from Springfield Armory, and they were like the same gun that person could get, is the same gun that the FBI could get, and it was all hard fitted. That slide, it's like it's on bearings. It's so smooth and so tight. Really, really well built. No sharp edges on it whatsoever. And then I liked it so much, and kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but and they don't do this anymore. You used to be able to commission the custom shop to build you a gun, any gun from the ground up. And after just spending, a couple of years just geeking out and understanding all the parts, like I essentially gave him a list of all the parts, because it wasn't all old Springfield parts. I want an AMB safety from EGW. I want the plunger from Wilson Combat, and just a build list to for me would be like the perfect 1911. So I submitted that build to them, and it took him, I think, I want to say 9 months to turn it around, and then they ship it to the FFL and all that. But it was essentially a commander version of that professional model with just what I would say is upgrades in terms of some of the parts, and then crowning the barrel, and specifying the pull weight on it. I think I had a 3-pound pull weight on it or something like that. So I still have it. It's a beautiful gun, and as the years went by, the custom shop stopped taking truly custom orders. So now if you want anything out of them, I think all you can do is take an existing firearm, and then they'll swap out a couple things here and there, but they won't do it.
So if you want a Springfield operator or something like that, and then little minor upgrades here and there, like a fucking cutout, like a slide cutout for an optic or some shit like that. You're saying
they may still do something like that, but for example, the slide that I asked them for, I asked for a true commander length short, because they have something they call the champion. Champion, I think, is a little bit shorter, and it uses a bull barrel. It's not the same as and their setup. But anything that they do now would be it would have to be Springfield parts. They wouldn't go and start outsourcing from Wilson and then EGW and all this stuff.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Dude, there is something fucking badass about 1911. So honestly,
yeah, no, I'm still a fan. I think you have the 2011s now, which I think they're badass, but
oh my god,
there's no that 1911s that I just they're just classic.
Just the ergonomics and the feel of a 1911, they're heavy and they're metal, and they shoot a fucking 45. It's just cool, it's just a badass handgun. That's why it's been around for so long. It's just it was well made, and it is awesome. It's just and they have just such good inherent accuracy. They're all just inherently accurate, even if you get a really simple one that it doesn't have just a real simple fucking base model one. They're just inherently accurate. They're just good, solid guns. And that was my very first handgun. I lied. My second handgun I bought was a 1911, and it was a Kimber Raptor 2 1911. That was pretty sick. I know Kimber kind of has some mixed reviews here and there from some people, but that gun was slick and it worked great. But I really want to get another one. I ended up having to sell that. Ran into some hard times, but it was a sick gun. I definitely want to get another one someday. But we're kind of talking about now and experiencing again is that there's a constant attack on quote unquote assault weapons. So I've been kind of putting behind buy as readily in the next few years if certain bills get passed. So
yeah,
I've been kind of waiting because under no provision of whatever a quote unquote assault weapon bill is being pushed. None of the verbiage really attacks a 1911. It doesn't carry more than 10 rounds. It's not an AR. Obviously, it's a handgun. But some of the verbiage that these quote unquote assault weapons bans are putting out, they're also trying to limit capacity of 10 rounds, no matter what the gun is, whether it's a handgun, rifle, doesn't matter. They're we want 10 round magazines, and that's it. So people with Glock 17s and 19s and stuff that hold 17 rounds, of ammo, they're going to figure something out and get it permanently fixed with like a pin or something through that can't be taken out. That limits the magazine capacity to fucking 10 rounds, which is ridiculous. But
yeah, a lot of the SIGs that are coming with that came with 15 round mags or even 17 round mags. I don't think they, at least in Illinois, I don't think you're even able to purchase them anymore.
No, because Illinois passed their own assault weapons ban not too long ago, which is being fought pretty hard right now by a lot of people. I did a podcast on it with Brian. He's an Illinois resident guy, and he is very well versed in this whole thing, and he follows it pretty closely. But yeah, no, Illinois is kind of crazy as a whole. It's just the whole state's ran by Chicago, and Chicago is ran by legacy Democrats that probably, don't fucking crucify me for this, but probably have ties with the old school mafia. It's just the kind of way it is. They never really left. They just got into politics instead of running speakeasies and bootlegging booze. They're just like, hey, we'll legitimize by getting into politics. That's what I kind of think, but that's just my personal opinion on it. But Illinois is wild.
Not being able to get some of the, just like, like a 2011. The whole point of having a 2011 is with the modified grip being able to hold, I don't even know how many, 18, 20 rounds in the.
Yeah, I think most of them are 20-ish rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, so that for example, is no longer something that I had it on the list to get, but it's not something that I could even get now.
Oh my God, they're so expensive.
Yeah,
they're so expensive. Springfield came out. What?
Yeah.
Sorry, what happened? What's up?
No, I said Springfield came out with their own version of it.
Yeah.
Version.
What was it? The Prodigy DS.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. That gun looks pretty slick, honestly. As far as looks goes, I have not handled one or touched one, so this is not an endorsement of that gun. But it looks pretty badass, and the price for the price, you're talking, what is it, $1,500? I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that whole market was just ripe for somebody to come in and release a production gun that is not $5,000 or whatever it is, like that XC.
Yeah.
The Staccato has.
Yeah, how much is the Staccato run now?
It's either $3,000 or $5,000 for the top of the line with a compensator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say that's terribly expensive, and there's a bunch of different 2011 manufacturers out there, but man, Staccato's definitely, they're one of the best. But you're talking. Let's look it up real quick. Where are we at here? What the hell are we at here? Oh, geez. Let's see. Buy now.
The XC would be the one to look at.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at the XL right now. I just clicked on the XL just because it's a random one. Oh, yeah. Here we go. $35.99. When I said $35.99, I mean $3,599.
Yep.
That's expensive. That's an expensive fucking handgun. And I think the DS is at least half that.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about expensive guns, a couple of stories on expensive guns. So SIG in Germany, they make the X5s, and they had been making these guns for a long time. And I think it was 2017, where there was a ban on importing those guns from Germany. There was still a way to do it. We just had to file a little paperwork, and those who were able to get them over, they would command a pretty hefty price. Because when SIG in the U.S. was bringing them over, they were maybe $2,000 for a SIG X5 made in Germany. After the ban passed, I think you're paying more like $3,000 to $4,000 for it.
Yeah.
I had my hands on. You can look this one up. It's the X5 Chrome Carbon, and it was the most beautiful pistol I've ever owned. And it was hand polished, the grips are aluminum and they're like shiny as hell. And I never shot it. It was just like so pretty to shoot. And what I ended up doing, getting rid of it. Well, that's the same model of gun pops up on Grown Broker. It's sold for $13,000.
Oh my God.
And you can look this up. And I certainly did not sell for $13,000 because I didn't know that the factory in Germany was actually shutting down. So these German SIGs are no longer being made because the factory shut down.
Jeez.
But SIG in the U.S. now has the X5, the new X5, not the polymer one, the full steel one. Mm-hmm. And now they're back like the normal price. But for a few years, it was a crazy market with these German-made SIGs, and that chrome carbon was very hard to get by itself in Germany. So like when you did find it here, and then after the factory shut down, like that was probably the most expensive X5 you could get.
Jeez, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's an expensive gun, but
it's really pretty.
That's kind of the fun thing about owning guns, though, is that you never, especially when you walk into like older gun shops and stuff, you never really know what you're going to stumble upon, you know?
Right.
Because I was just, I did a podcast. It's actually going to release. By this time it would have already released. But I did a podcast with the guys from Staggercast. They're Northeast hunters, you know, big buck killers out in the Northeast, New England area. But they run a lot of Remington 7600s, you know, pump action 30-06s and stuff. And he was saying, like, man, they can't find them out there. Like the old Remington 7600s, they, you know, even old beat up ones, they're selling for, you know, $1,500 to $2,000, depending on where you're looking, if they have them. And it got me thinking, like, fuck, dude, I didn't know that, because my local gun shop, I saw one in there for like, I want to say it was like $600-700. And I was looking at it, I'm like, man, I should buy this fucking gun, because that'd be pretty cool. And I didn't. I should have. Because I could have sold
it's crazy. You always find like all these like little gems that are like, there's like this little pockets of like niche guns that people, like, if you know about it, like, you know exactly what you're looking for. But, you know, there's like that example is a great one of like, I had no idea about that, but yeah, I totally believe it. Like, it's the same thing with you know, like pythons. Like there's well, actually you probably have heard about this. The oh my gosh, Colt had a short run of 1911s that went to the Marines that were Cerakoted, and the Cerakote was just chipping off, and then they decommissioned them fairly quickly. And now those guns, I mean, you go on broker try to buy one of those, especially the ones that are decommissioned that have a big X on the slide, they're going for, I want to say like $5,000. Some people are asking for like $8,000 to $10,000 for those guns.
Jeez.
It's just like a run of the mill 1911, but it's, you know, it's like
it's the Marine
limited
version.
run. Yeah, it's a piece of history.
Yeah, it's got US-7C on the side of it, probably. I'm sure it's got a globe and anchor somewhere on there. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's one thing the Marines are really good at. I think the Marines in general pay less than other branches, and I don't know, I guess they get stationed in places like California and shit, so that's not too bad. But I don't know, they get like a bunch of hand-me-down stuff, but you get the title of being a Marine, and they got like cool symbols like the globe and anchor and a bunch of history and shit that they get all hyped up on and stuff. So it's kind of funny because like when people want to be Marines, it's like they want to be a fucking Marine. There's no talking them out of it. So there's a lot of rich history in the Marine Corps, honestly. Yeah. So it makes sense, I guess, what I'm trying to say, that they're going to command a pretty hefty price for a Marine Corps 1911.
Yeah. All right, I agree.
What?
I say I agree.
Oh, you're okay. How they said, "Are you there?" I'm like, yeah, dude. So, sorry. But Yeah, so I do want to get to some other stuff before we get off, but you are really big into reloading and stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into that yet, so that's something I am really interested in. So, what made you get into reloading? I guess because let's back up a little bit because you're into like long range shooting and shit, right? Like PRS stuff,
right?
Is that what got you into reloading?
Yeah, very quickly find out that anybody who's really serious about that game, like that's what you got to do to get the most out of the rifle. And the thing is, there's a way to maximize the potential of every rifle. It could be from the cheapest production rifle you can get to like top of the line hand cut barrel that was built just for you with your round and your headspace in mind. And we can talk a little bit about that. But and the PRS game is all about getting. People talk about the SD, like people will just ask immediately. Anybody who's into the PRS game, that tends to be like the stat that people are talking about for the most part, which is like SD stands for standard deviation. Mm-hmm. And what people are referring to is that as you are finding your load, the optimal load for your rifle, most of these guys will have some sort of chronograph, and you can go really expensive with a lab radar, which is actually truly a radar that tracks the speed of your bullet from the moment it comes out of your barrel all the way down range. That's the most accurate way, I think, to track it. And then most of the guys will use what is called a magneto, and a magneto is kind of like this sensor, magnetic sensor, I believe, that attaches to the barrel itself. And when the bullet passes right over it, it measures or tracks the speed at which it came out of the muzzle, and it's far more accurate in measuring it than those old school chronographs that you have, like those little, like the two antennas.
Oh yeah,
you know which one I'm talking about.
Yep.
Those are not that accurate, but most people are using these magneto. So what the whole thing, like to simplify it a bit, what you're trying to do is finding the charge weight or the amount of grains, and you can talk about powder and all that stuff, but just to keep it simple, you're trying to find the sweet spot in which the right amount of a certain amount of powder will find they call it like the flat spot, and what that means is that there will be very little variation in how much the speed changes from that load. So let's say, for example, I'm loading 308 with 168 grain bullet, and let's say I'm putting like 42 grains of I'm just going to say Varget as one of the powders. Mm-hmm. So I know, and another thing that people use is there's this program called Quick Load. And Quick Load is a software where you input all the stats of like your speed, your powder, your seating depth, your everything that you can measure, you can enter in the computer, and then Quick Load will give you a prediction of what the speed will be, and it will tell you how much powder you can put in the case without compressing the charge. Or going or not putting enough in it. So you start from a good place there. So let's start. So like the 42, and you can find that 42 grains on a Hornady manual or an RCBS manual, whatever. You can find that charge as a starting point. So what guys will do is like, let's say they take that 42 grains, and then they'll start. There's so many ways to do this, but some guys do 42, 42.1, 42.2, 42.3, etc. So you'll create like, let's say, 5 to 8 batches of rounds with that amount of charge, and then you'll run them all through the chronograph. So let's say at 42 grains, the 5 bullets that I shot, somewhere coming out at like excuse me, let's say some are coming out at like 2,800 feet per second. And then some of them are like the lowest end will be 2,800 feet per second. And then like the hottest one, even though they're all 42 grains, the hottest one came in at like, 2,850 feet per second. So what you're looking for is a batch of rounds that had the least amount of spread. And so the least amount of spread, that means that the speed stayed very consistent. What you're trying to achieve is that every single round comes out of that barrel at the exact same speed, no matter what. Okay. And then the data that you put into the software just tells you which of these batches is the one that does the job best. And that's where guys tend to get started. So if you're trying to get into reloading for that level of precision at long range, you're looking at spending a lot of money just in equipment, right? Because you need some guys spend easily $1,000 just on a scale. And we're talking like scientific lab grade scales that can read that point of a grain, tenth of a grain, precisely over and over again. And some guys go with some that's a lot cheaper, like $50 for a little scale that can get you there. But like if you're playing that PRS game, you're really gonna have to get into the scales, having a special powder that a powder scale that throws exactly the same amount of powder every time, so you're not doing it by hand. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and it sounds pretty complex, but it's something that you have to. I took a class from somebody who does this at the club. He's an NRA instructor on reloading. Oh, okay. So that's how I learned all of this. Like if I was going to start this from zero and I just went and grabbed a manual, it would be not only intimidating, it could potentially be pretty dangerous, because you could, if you mess something up, or like something as simple as this happens often, if you were to put 2 charges, like just by mistake, you dump twice the amount of powder in a 9mm case, that thing is going to blow up your slide. Oh yeah, for sure. So it's kind of nerve-wracking at first when you start getting into it, especially if you're learning how to use the presses and all that. You have the single stage, which most people start out with. It's cheaper, and all your attention is focused on one part of the process versus a progressive press that has, every time that you pull the handle, 5 different things happen at the same time with 5 different cases. So you really have to have a good understanding of how that whole thing works, and have everything well tuned, so that you don't end up blowing up a $2,000, $3,000 gun and probably hurting yourself in the process.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, you're loading up explosives into a small area and shooting a projectile out of a small piece of metal and trying to hit something a really long ways away. So it's incredibly precise, like science that has to go into it. And there's really not, you can deviate, not really deviate. You can experiment and do your own thing within the confines of the parameters, but generally as long as you stay within the confines of the parameters, and when it comes to pressures and all that stuff, then you can really tweak those bullets and charges and stuff. You can really tweak them quite a bit from like factory, right?
Oh, for sure. And then the thing, what happens there's cheap Tula ammo or like Wolf ammo.
Hell yeah.
Steel case and all that stuff. Like, what's the difference between that and something that you hand load? Well, there's probably a significant variation in the amount of powder. Like, it's still safe, but it's not the same amount of powder in every single case. Or how deep they seating the bullet at the factory. There's probably some variation there. And I think that's the name of the game. Like, you want everything to be consistent. It could be, whatever the measurement is, but it has to be the same in every single round, because that's what's going to give you that repetition and reliability. And so a lot of that factory ammo that is on the cheaper stuff, it just has a ton of variance across multiple things, not just the powder, but how much they the bullet is seated in there. Even the bullet itself, like the variation of how much one bullet versus the other, like it could be 1 or 2, 3 grains in difference. If I go out to the store and buy a box of Hornady AMAX, or not even AMAX, the ELDs that most people shoot, guys will weigh every single one out of the 50 or the 100, and they'll put them in batches, because they're, even in those cases, there's variation of a grain to all the way to 3 grains in a 168 grain bullet. So they'll set those apart. So like anything that you can measure with components, people will like geek out and like start setting them aside in different batches. So the goal ultimately for them is to build a batch of rounds that are essentially identical from one another.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, especially when it comes to factories. Like you're talking about mass producing this shit. So, you know,
Right.
there's going to be some variation, you know, there's some variation in everything that comes from a factory, just because they're focusing on it, and there's some high quality factory ammo out there, you know, like certain lines of like Nosler, they put out some really high quality,
Right.
you know, factory ammo, but they're still going for quantity. You know, when you're hand loading, you're specifically loading each round for 100% quality, and what your specific gun and how it shoots and what it likes for bullet weights and powder charge and all that kind of stuff, you know. So you're really dialing it in, so you're getting ultra accurate and ultra specific. So I could definitely see like some guys noticing some pretty big variations, like 3 grain variation between bullet weights seems like a lot, but when you think about it, like how much is 1 grain? You know, it's not that much. So just a
Right.
little bit of material left on the bullet when it goes through the factory. It's like, I could see how that'd slip past, you know, quality control and get out there and, you know, and honestly, I don't know. I'd probably say most shooters probably wouldn't notice the difference in what they're shooting, you know, when
Right.
it comes to factory ammo and stuff. In all honesty, like their shooting technique and stuff probably isn't where it needs to be to really notice, like if factory ammo is off, I guess.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because one is how is the gun even built? Like if you have a mil-spec trigger that is super gritty and it's like an 8 to 10 pound pull, that's going to be
bad.
far more disruptive to your accuracy than the ammo.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And, you know, a really good shooter can get past a mil-spec trigger and still shoot pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, you got to fight through a lot in order to keep it on target. And, you know, because those mils, it sounds cool, you know, mil-spec, but they suck. Like, honestly, when people say military grade, after being in the military for almost 10 years, it's like, when people say, like, military grade, I'm like, ugh, that's going to break, you know?
Right.
or maybe it kind of sucks. But
some of these PRS triggers, a lot of guys shoot trigger tech. I mean, you're talking in a Remington 700 action, like a 1 ounce pull on these things. Like and you can adjust it, right? You can make it a lot heavier, but it's essentially you can make it a hair trigger where you have the least amount of input on the rifle, and if you have a kick-ass barrel, kick-ass action, and a kick-ass trigger, and you have the right ammo for it, you really are going to maximize the potential that the setup has with a trigger that is that light.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I've shot some guns where it's like you fucking look at the trigger and it's going to go off. It's so light, it's crazy. But you know, I don't know. I like, what weight trigger do you like on your like precision guns? Do you like a super light trigger?
On the bolt action, I like really light.
Do you?
And then on the, I don't know, for some reason I keep coming back to I built a 308. I put together a 308 gas gun from scratch. It's actually a Zeb.
Nice.
Upper and lower. But I like that one to go a little bit heavier, and I think maybe something about just it being a semi where you have a little bit of if you go too light, and this happened to me with a Geissele the Geissele match trigger. It's a 2-stage trigger. If you go too light on it, it won't reset. And it has to do with it being a semi where it doesn't. I don't know what exactly caused it, but if you go too light, it won't reset the trigger. I put the trigger tag on that one, the AR version of it. And even then, I still go a little bit heavier than the bolt gun.
Okay, no, I think that makes sense. It's you're going for more of a combat trigger when it comes to semi-autos, and gas guns specifically. It's like you don't want a super duper light trigger on those. In my opinion, you really don't. You also don't need it because you're not shooting them super long range, But on your long range bolt guns. I can definitely see how guys would want to get away with a much lighter trigger. And me personally, I like a nice light trigger on my bolt guns too. But I still I'm still right around that 1.5 to 2 pounds-ish kind of guy, even on my bolt guns, just because I like to get settled in and put my finger on the trigger and just really kind of get in the zone that way. You know what I mean? Like I don't like to touch the trigger and it goes off kind of thing. I like to get my finger on it and slowly start applying pressure before it breaks. That's
with a 2-stage, single stage.
I guess mostly single stage. I like 2 stages though. I do. I really, really, really like 2-stage triggers, but I shoot most of my guns are just single stage.
Yeah.
But
single stage makes sense.
Yeah. But either way, honestly, I like and I can see the pros and cons of both triggers, and I can shoot both types of triggers pretty darn well. But I don't know. I think I personally kind of like a single stage on my bolt guns. Just I kind of like touching it, setting it on there, getting settled in my shot, and then just like starting to apply pressure. Then it goes off. I just seem to shoot those the best, and I guess I kind of look at it like archery when you're shooting a hinge release. You shot hinge releases before?
Yep.
Yeah. So like back tension, hinge release type situation there. Like I look at those almost as being like a 2-stage where you're fucking pulling back and then you're like, okay, here we go. I'm pulling through, and then you hear the click. And you're like, okay, here it goes. And it just kind of goes off and it's supposed to surprise you. That's how I look at like really nice 2-stage triggers, and then the single stage triggers are those really nice, finger caliper releases, which is what I also shoot at my compounds. I don't shoot hinge or tension releases, I guess, but I don't know why. I've always really liked to put my finger on the trigger, kind of start going through and that's when my shot process really starts. So with rifle shooting, I kind of just do the same thing. Once I get on target, get the target in my reticle, get ready to go, get it on target, and then settle in and get the spot on the target that I'm trying to hit. And then that's when my shot process really starts.
Let me ask you, when you're looking through the scope, are you focusing on the target or are you focusing on your dot, on your crosshair?
Target. Yeah. No, I'm a target-focused guy. I like to, when I'm set up behind a gun, I acquire the target. Say I'm out there and shooting a range and there's unknown targets. I go out there with my binos, almost like a NRL match, right? Or a hunting situation where you're glassing with your binos. Then you're like, oh shit, there's a target. Okay. Get your gun kind of situated and ready to go. Then you get down on your gun. Then you find the target in your reticle. And then once I get the target in my reticle and get the crosshairs on the target, that's when I flick the safety off, put my finger on the trigger, and then I focus on the spot that I'm trying to hit. And then the reticle kind of blurs, and I just kind of keep the crosshairs on the spot that I'm trying to hit on the target. And that's when I,
right,
and squeeze off.
That's awesome.
Is that the same for you, or are you different? Are you more of a?
No, I'm actually the opposite. I focus on the target first, then I switch over to getting my my reticle, focus on the reticle and put it right where I want it, and then just focusing. I guess my attention then just shifts to the press the trigger.
Okay.
But it's almost like a back and forth, is like making sure that reticle is exactly where I'm aiming at. But it's different from when I'm looking at through the bow. When I'm shooting with the bow, it's 100% focused on the target and just blurring the pins. But I'm not letting my reticle blur. Actually, the target blurs when I shoot through the rifles. So the opposite from the bow.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I guess I've always shot my bows and my rifles pretty much the same. That's how I don't know. I never really remember being taught this, but I just remember my dad when I was young, like, telling me to pick a spot. Pick a spot on the animal that you're trying to shoot, and then just stay focused on that spot. And when my dad was teaching me how to shoot, we were, Iowa deer hunting. We're pushing deer. They're gonna fucking crucify me for that, but generally we were shooting deer that were either like jogging or running. Like, that's just what we did. And my dad always told me, he's like, hey, even if when it's running, you keep your fucking eye focused on, I don't think he said fucking, but he said, keep your eye focused on the spot you're trying to hit on the animal, bring your shotgun up, and then your gun will just be there, and you're just using your sights as a reference, but you're never losing that spot. So I guess that's how I've always shot, even when it's stationary. I've just always been very focused on that one spot that I'm trying to hit on the target. And then I was just kind of went through stages. When it transferred over to, optics and scopes and, red dots and shit like that in the military, I've still always been that way, where I'm focused on the target and then bring my sights up, and my sights will just generally be in that vicinity, no matter what. Those be in that vicinity. Then I just gotta kind of fine tune really fast and let her rip, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So it's just been out. It was always kind of been that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to give that a shot, because it's not something that. Yeah, like because I learned how to shoot with a rifle before I learned how to shoot the bow. I think if I learned the bow first, I maybe would have brought over that same way of aiming, of like focus on the target.
Yeah, I feel like I'd get target panic when I focus on the reticle, and not necessarily in the sense of target panic like some people talk. Like, if I can't, I've noticed that I'm kind of anal about certain things. And if I can't get that fucking reticle to stop, then I get kind of pissed. You know what I mean? I'm not comfortable with float, with like pin float or reticle float. And I've been through sniper ranges and stuff. I've never been through sniper school, but I've been through like ranges with the snipers that our sniper section that we had with us. And they talked about, like just letting it float in that spot, just letting it float and being comfortable with that. Like, I'm not very comfortable with that when I'm focused on it. If I'm focused on the target, then I get comfortable with that float, because the float doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense.
So otherwise I just get so pinpointed on stopping that movement as much as possible before I let it off. Then I end up getting frustrated. I'm like, okay, it stopped. Goosh, and then squeeze it, and then I flinch. Because I'm just trying to get the round off or the arrow off really fast. So I'm trying to time it where it's like, okay, now it's stopped, squeeze it off, and then it makes you flinch, and I'm off target. So I've just been like, if I found with myself, me personally, if I stay focused on the target and just, moving through it, like, I think, what's his fucking name? Joel Turner. That's a shot IQ guy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think he's talked about it before, and that makes a lot of sense in my head, where he's like, it's like you're moving through that stage, moving through that position, or moving through that room of the shooting house, wherever his big analogy is on that whole thing. I've always kind of done that in stages where it's like, okay, target acquisition, get the target in my reticle. Okay, find the spot on the target that I want to hit, bring the crosshairs to that spot, and then move through it. And once it's on that spot, once my reticle and everything's lined up on that spot, then I move through the scope and onto the target. I focus on that specific spot that I'm trying to hit. And everything else is a little bit blurred, but I've already done that. I've gotten everything lined up. Now I'm focused on that spot on the target, and then I'm going through my execution.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I don't know. This is how I've kind of generally always shot, and I never was able to really put it in very good words until I would listen. I did hear Joel Turner talking about that. I'm like, dude, that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty much how I've been kind of shooting, just not in the right. I did like a form of that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the way that you described it just now, I think a lot of guys can relate to like that uncomfortable feeling of not being able to keep those pins or that reticle steady.
Yep. Yeah, because I've heard Levi Morgan talk about that, where he's like, you just gotta be comfortable with the pin float. I'm like, dude, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, I just, like, I'm not good with watching that pin move around. But when I'm focused on the target, when that sight kind of blurs, it doesn't seem like it's really moving that much. Mm-hmm. So it makes it a lot easier for me to be comfortable with, because it is floating. It's still doing its thing. I'm just not paying attention to it as much because I've already put the pin on the target. Then I'm moving through that, getting on the target and calling it a night and letting it do its thing. Then my brain does the rest, where it's like it'll time it out for me.
Yeah.
You know, but also with because I've done some long range shooting and stuff, not to the extent that you're doing. You know, we've shot a lot of guns, you know, at the sniper range and whatnot, but most of my training was, you know, CQB type stuff. So there's a lot of shooting faster and rather than, you know, long range shit.
Yeah, so it's I would think it's more of instinctual and more of like, is it in the general right area versus like, oh, I want to hit like this very specific spot as you're cleaning a room or so, you know, things like that. Correct.
Yeah, because when we were in Afghanistan, most of our firefights happened within, I don't know, I'd say 300, 400, 500 yards ish or meters or whatever. You know, it was that was generally the distance. Like they really like to get us kind of close, and then we would have to, you know, go from there. We'd just suppress a fire, or you know, okay, they're shooting us from over here. Let's suppress that spot, and then if we see something, then we direct and try to be a little more accurate. But generally, it's like, you know, hey, suppress a fire on this spot, get fire superiority, then maneuver on them. And when you're the maneuvering element, it's a little bit different because, yeah, it's much more instinctual. It's like you're going through, it's generally closer quarters, and you don't need to be as precise because when you see something, you're just popping up on it and fucking just trying to hold the gun down and fucking hammer down as much as you can until the, you know, target's down and incapacitated kind of deal. So, yeah, the snipers, obviously they did all their stuff was fucking, you know, ultra precise. They're not doing suppressive fire as snipers, you know. It's like you're picking your shots because you don't want to be picked off in your hide and whatnot. That's why the infantrymen are down on the ground, fucking drawing the fire kind of deal.
No, yeah, I mean, you just reminded me of, I guess it's a similar technique. Cause I didn't mention this earlier, but I used to play paintball for a little bit and more of the competitive stuff. And when they get into, I forgot, this is so long ago, but when you have like five versus five, and it's like this very small, what do you call it, like a small arena or whatever, like, I remember it's like you're just shooting volume. You're trying to suppress the other side so that your buddies can maneuver and flank them. And it was less about precise on like, you know, I want to pop him in the head. It's just like, no, I got to keep him behind cover so that my buddies can maneuver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
The way they use.
Let's see, pretty damn accurate. Paintball is very similar to, you know, combat in that sense, where it's like that's what you're generally doing is you're trying to gain. The biggest thing is you're trying to gain fire superiority, and the only way to do that is with overwhelming fires, i.e., a shit ton of bullets downrange, more bullets than they're putting downrange. So then the enemy has to keep their head down rather than firing their weapons. They have to keep their head down because there's so much shit going on around them, and they can't concentrate. So we needed, as a fighting force, we had to be able to acquire targets and suppress targets as fast as possible with, like I said, overwhelming fires. That's why, as a scout sniper element, we had a lot of firepower at our disposal when it came to small units. Like we had 2 machine gunners, 2 grenadiers, squad leader, and a team leader. That was our squad makeup, and that's a lot of firepower for a small amount of people. Generally in a normal like line company or line unit in a squad, you have you have more people. So I think you still have the same amount of grenadiers and maybe a machine gunner or something like that, but you have a few more riflemen in the mix as well. But we have generally the only quote unquote rifleman we had in our squad was our squad leader and team leader, and that's because their main objective was directing fires and having command and control over the element rather than obviously they shot, but their main objective was making sure that we were all doing our jobs before they were firing their weapons, kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just a different situation. So my training background did not necessarily wasn't necessarily long range precision shooting all the time. It's just we definitely did a lot of that, but maybe we did a lot more than like regular line companies, but that wasn't really my forte in the military. My forte was blowing shit up as a grenadier and shooting fast. So,
right. But, well, I mean, and it's amazing, right? Because I'm talking about, playing around with the long range stuff, but it's like, well, nobody's shooting back. Like you're really in the real shit and like the thick of it, and always it's a completely different experience, and obviously your life's at stake and your buddies' lives are at stake. So there's no comparison.
Yeah, it's just a different situation. It's like, when there's lives at risk, it's completely, you just react differently. But when it's a competition, honestly, a lot of these competitions they're doing pretty damn well with time constraints and trying to make it as stressful as possible. So then when you get to your moment, especially with the NRL Hunter, that competition, have you done any of those?
No, I haven't. I'm really interested in it. Is that the one where I think a buddy of mine was telling me about? Is this is it called Mammoth? Is that one of those where they pack up and essentially they're like hiking for miles and miles, and there's like sections where they have to make some really crazy shots, but they're hauling all their gear. Is it anything like that?
I think it might be similar, but the NRL Hunter matches are very much hunting based, so they're going to be in your most of your targets are going to be within. I've never done any of them, but this is what I've been told, is that most of your targets are going to be within traditional hunting ranges. Okay. So you're talking, 200, 300, 400 yards. Then you're going to have some out there at 600, 700, 800 yards. So that's going to be your general. It's not like PRS where they're shooting at 1,000+ yards, right? As much. I think my buddy has done a few of them, and he said there are some long shots, but generally they're in their traditional hunting ranges. And the way the stages are set up is that you walk up to an area, they tell you to stop, and they say, okay, point to an area, say, this is where your shooting position's at, go. And you go out there, and you have to fucking get your gun set up, get your spotter set up, get your binos out, and you have to find the targets. All they tell you is how many targets are out there. And so say you get to a stage, and they're like, yeah, there's 4 targets out there. Then you got to find them. You have to actually acquire them in your binos, find the target, like, cool. All right, hey, there's a fucking sheep out there. Let me get on that motherfucker. Or generally people would find them, range them, write it down, and kind of where they're at, get it all set up, then go through their shots. But, they have however many targets out there per stage, and they're at varying ranges, and they're all unknown ranges, and they're in, like, steel silhouettes of animals.
That's badass.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking sweet looking. I really want to do one someday because they're obviously the guys that go in there with their... Oh, and there's weight requirements. So, like PRS, generally you want like a really heavy gun, don't you? Yeah. So in NRL Hunter, you can't have... I think there is an open class where you can have a fucking heavy gun, but they really want to keep the NRL Hunter in a certain area where it's like, oh my God, where it's more within like hunting regulations. So your gun, generally they have like an 8-pound requirement or something like that for a gun. And that's what you're shooting. You're not shooting a fucking, 26-pound 6.5 Creedmoor.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can drop $800 to get a carbon fiber proof research barrel, and there you go. You just saved however many pounds on that 26-inch barrel.
Yeah.
No, that sounds awesome, dude. Like that is. I'm kind of curious if the stages are like, like in like really brushy, like kind of replicating or mimicking the, being in like a wooded setting where you can actually feel a little bit more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the matches are just like wide open pastures, and then you can see the target clear as day.
Right. Yeah. The NRL Hunter, they're definitely more hidden. Like I won't say that they're hidden, but they're in like from the range that I've seen, they're generally in like hunting looking scenarios. It's not just a big open green pasture with a shit ton of targets out there shooting. So it seems pretty cool. I need to get out there and do it.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
So, you talk about reloading some. So how many PRS matches do you do a year generally?
Well, there's one every month, and starting in March, and it goes through September at the club. I've done the ones that are out of state a couple times, but between the farm, like now that I have the new farm, it's just getting it all set up for season, and doing all the food plots and the planting and all that stuff. It just takes so much time now.
Yeah.
Out of all these matches are on a weekend, so it makes it a little bit trickier for me to participate in all of them.
For sure. I mean, especially when it comes to hunting, because you're more of a bow hunter, aren't you, rather than gun hunter? Like, I'm not saying you have to put your hat on anything, but you're really into bow hunting.
I would say yes, because I would consider myself greener as a bow hunter than I am as a gun hunter.
Yep.
And I just need to give it more attention just because I want to get better at it. I think just the nature of the PRS has gotten my comfort with behind the rifle to a level where it's like, whenever we have our 2 weekends in the season to get up on the tree with a slug gun here in Illinois, like that, no problem. Like I just make sure that my scope is zeroed and I'm good to go. Whereas the bow is just like, this is just one of those things I had to stick with it year round just to make sure that I feel confident. And even then, I don't feel anywhere near as confident behind the bow as I feel like behind a gun. So I think that's primarily the reason why I'm paying more attention or spending more time behind the bow. It's just that, just to get the skill set up.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes total sense. It doesn't take very much to be a pretty good shot. It takes some dedication early on to learn how to shoot a gun like decent, but in order to keep that up, it doesn't take that much attention necessarily. Once you get the fundamentals down and you understand all that stuff, it doesn't take much for you just to stay at least pretty decent. It does take a lot for you to become really fucking good, but with bow, with archery stuff, it takes a little bit more attention, a little bit more, I guess, a little more practice in order to be proficient at, rather than guns.
Yeah, there's more variables in archery, like what I was mentioning here with I think with shooting, it's all very scientific and everything's it's measurable. With a bow, unless you're like a tournament archer, like I don't even know where the data is for me to understand like a certain spine or a certain length, like what's going to tighten my groups, like the level of detail or how much I can geek out, putting together a load for any given rifle. I can't, or at least I don't know how to do that with a bow. So in many cases, I end up in a situation where the bow is just like, I'm wondering if we'll hit the bow that it's not optimized like my rifle is, or is it me, or is it a combination of both? So I think that's kind of where I tend to fall when it comes to just feeling proficient with the bow.
No, that makes total sense. Me personally, for some reason, I'm pretty fucking good at like keeping. Like, for some people, it takes a little bit longer for them to get back into shooting form when it comes to archery. But for some reason, I don't know. I've always kept up to it, up with it, in my brain. So it's not been like a big thing for I need to shoot constantly in order to be good at it.
Right.
But it does take it. There are a lot of variables that go into, because with archery, there's no arrow that's built. You can't just go buy like an Easton hunting arrow fully suited, ready to go for your bow. They don't have it set up like that. With rifles, you buy a 30-06, and then you go to the store and you see 30-06 ammo, and you buy some ammo and you start shooting. You can't just go to the store and be like, I have an elite terrain set at 70 pounds at 31.5-inch draw. Give me an arrow. Like, they don't have just arrow packages for that setup. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it takes a lot more tinkering on your end in order to be good at it.
Yeah, 100%. I was just thinking exactly that yesterday, because I have a bow press. I work with my own bow here, and I caught myself looking at I did the center serving by hand and by myself, and then I was tying the knocking points, or the soft knocks rather, and I I caught myself, like I have my lighter burning the knots that I made, and I'm like laughing at myself. I'm like, archery, it's almost like it's really an art just working on the bow, because it's these knots and how you tie certain things and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm laughing as I'm putting the lighter down to burn the ends of the string that I just wrapped around another string that is wrapped around a bunch of other strings. Whereas, if I'm making ammo, it's just like enter the number of how many grains I want and dump that, and then I press it and it's done. It's like, it's very clear cut when it comes to the hand loading or reloading versus working on the bow. It's just like an art, and how tight do you down? It's just, it blows my mind, and I think it's part of the reason why it still doesn't make me feel as comfortable as the gun, because I feel like with the gun I can be very exact about what goes into it, whereas with the bow it's like, does it feel tight enough? Like that. Right.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense, dude. Like, that's exactly it. Like, shooting a gun and getting ready getting set up and shooting a gun well. And especially if you nerd completely out and get a reloading set and everything else, and you go that route, it's a science. Like, archery isn't necessarily a science; it's more of an art. Just like what you just said, that sums it up perfectly. The differences between archery and guns. Like, archery is 100% much more of an art, and there's no necessarily perfect. Do this, and this, and you'll get X result. That's not necessarily how it works with archery. You gotta fuck around with it a lot more. You gotta tinker with it. You gotta change a lot of shit out and really suit everything up to fit you personally the best. With a gun, everything's a lot more scientifically laid out, where it's like, do X, Y, and Z, and this is going to happen.
Yeah, and archery is not as it's not documented in the way that firearms are, right? Like, everything's like, it's engineered, but also like, just again with the ammo, like, you pick up the manual, exactly how much powder, and then what powder, and then how much the bullet needs to be seated. And I can't think of any manuals in archery that tell me how to tie a D-loop, and just a D-loop. I feel like I could pick 3-4 different sources that may have a different way of tying a D-loop. And I mean, it's a slight exaggeration, but it's like something as simple as that. There isn't even a consistent way of doing it with the same level of precision that you see it in the firearms world.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Absolutely. But hey, we've been going on about an hour and a half. I don't want to keep you all night, but
No problem.
did you have? I'm also getting a bunch of fucking write errors on my damn SD card. It's still running, so that's good. But is there anything else we really wanted to get to tonight that you know of? Like, I guess what else did you want to throw out there?
I think we should do as a follow-up, and we didn't talk about this, but as a follow-up, I think we should find time to do some night coyote hunting at some point. Cause, it's something that's been in the back of my head, and it's if I can find somebody who's into it, who's not that far from the farm, like that. I think that would be something that I'd like to get into it. And if you're interested, I mean,
fuck yeah, dude. Do you have a lot of coyotes on your farm? And your new that you just bought a while ago, or what?
We have a lease also, and that lease has a ton of coyotes.
Oh no
My
shit!
farm is raccoons, but the coyotes on the other we lease 300 acres, closer west towards you.
Okay.
Place to go and do some calling and some shooting for sure.
Fuck yeah, I know some guys that are really into coyotes and shit. We could definitely figure something out, dude. That'd be awesome. Suppressors aren't legal in Illinois, though, are they?
No.
Fucking bullshit, dude. God. Dude, oh my gosh. Went out prairie dog hunting not too long ago with Matt Hoynes and Scotty Sullivan. And Matt, he works at Silencer Central, and he brought all of his cans out there. And fuck, dude, this is such a game changer. And the thing that sucks is like the NFA got passed in 1934, and that was very much in a time where the Prohibition era created a huge black market in alcohol and created a bunch of fucking organized president and was like, hey, we got to do something about this fucking crime situation. And I think he just almost got assassinated too in that same time frame. And it was like, fuck, we got to do something. So they passed the NFA and they put silencers on there as an NFA item. And it's like, fuck, dude, those things, because at the time, the reason why they got put on there is because they had, quote unquote, no sporting use. At the time, they were only being used by gangsters and criminals. So they were like, fucking throw that thing on there too, because only gangsters and criminals use silencers, and they stated in there the reason why they put them in there was because they had no sporting use. It's like, motherfuckers, if only you knew how much sporting use a silencer has, because they are awesome. They're the shit. I really need to get a couple.
I feel like I think it's a requirement in Europe if you want to shoot go hunting. I don't know if it's a requirement, but it's certainly like more seems welcome for people to put a can on their rifles out there.
Everywhere in Europe, like all these countries have way stricter gun laws than us. Like South Africa, you can buy a fucking silencer in South Africa, and I think you can buy one in a gas station. Like they are so easy to buy, but
and it's not an oil filter, is it?
Yeah, right. Well, it might be, but they're not titanium. The ones you find in the gas station aren't titanium, but they're but you can still find them. They're sold very much over the counter because they're just a device. Like they're not even it's not a gun. It's just a fucking piece of metal, and and they control guns like super strictly in South Africa. I think every gun you buy, you have to have like a huge sheet written down. It's only to you. So, like, I don't know. It's they're much more strict. They have much more strict gun laws in Europe than we do, but yet they realize that fucking silencers are the shit, and they have no use until they're on a gun. Like they in of themselves, they're not going to fucking hurt anybody. So, and you can't. I mean, unless you beat the fuck out of someone like in using it as a nightstick, it's not going to do anything. But I think New Zealand specifically, or maybe it's Scotland or something like that, one of those island countries, they do require a silencer during hunting, just because it's an island and it's close quarters to housing and stuff like that. They don't want a bunch of fucking gunshots going off during hunting season.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's either I want to say it's New Zealand or Scotland, one of those two fucking island countries. Because Scotland's an island, right? I'm not dumb by thinking that. Yeah. So it's one of those fucking weird European island countries that they're like, yeah, silencers are the shit, and we should all be using them. So, but yet in Iowa, or not in Iowa, but America, we're like, nope, you got to pay a $200 tax stamp to get one. And fucking Illinois is like, you can't even have one. Can't even look at one. So
yeah, we don't have silencers over here, suppressors over here.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. I think actually the legal term for them is silencer, which is kind of funny too. Like that's why it's silencer.
Really, I didn't know.
Yeah. Matt Hoynes is telling me that because that's why they're called like legally Silencer Central. I think that's legally why they're called Silencer Central. And then you have Silencer Co. Like they're all they call their suppressors silencers because I think that's the actual legal term for that device is a silencer when it comes to the government.
Oh wow!
So yeah, that's funny, but yeah, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to close with? I guess before we head out of here.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully we can get together again. I remember meeting you in person last year's shoot, so missed this year. It was fun to get together.
Absolutely, I'm glad you came on, man. This has been a good time.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jake.
Yes, sir. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.